Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Rizet, and with me today is my colleague Bill Sessler. Our topic is what data and analytics can do for you during the time of COVID-19. We got a great agenda today. We'll start with a brief introduction. We'll go over the current situation and the leading indicators. We also will get into the three hypotheses that we have that we're going to pose towards utilities. What questions should they be asking? And then ultimately, how should data and analytics, how should they prepare for COVID-19 response? As mentioned before, my name is Jay Rizet. I lead the data and analytic practice at Utilligent and reside in Denver, Colorado. But with me is my colleague Bill Sessler. He's a consultant in their data and analytic practice, and he resides in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, Bill, what kind of trends or themes are you seeing in the marketplace right now?
Thanks, Jay. This really is an unprecedented time that we are experiencing. Some of the leading factors we have been tracking are that there are 126 million households in the U.S. Jay, that's up significantly from 100 million in 1996, meaning that there are a lot more utility customers out there. Other factors we are looking at are around unemployment. For example, Jay, experts are saying around 47 million people will be affected by unemployment in the U.S. That's roughly 1/3 of American households. Before all of this started, 57% of Americans said they couldn't handle a $500 emergency. Given the current situation, I really expect this number to continue to rise. Another leading factor that I think is really going to come into play is consumer debt. Since the Great Recession in 2009, we have seen this number grow 19%. Jay, historically, consumers haven't been extremely motivated to pay their utility, gas, and electric bills, placing them 5th and 10th on a given list of bills they have to pay. So, Jay, given this information, how can we leverage data to prepare for the coming weeks and months ahead?
Well, based on the data and trends you just shared, there are three predictions or hypotheses that will likely take place. And I don't think we're going to be stepping out on a limb with any one of these. Let's start with the first one. The first one is that customers will likely be unable to pay their bills on time, which is due to higher unemployment rates and lower disposable income. The second one is that average bill amounts will also likely increase over the next several months. That's due to people working from home and sheltering in place. And the third one is that call volumes will also likely increase over the next several months. Most customers are going to find themselves in a situation where they want to discuss their bill, they want to talk about the postponement of bills, and they also maybe wanted to dispute the bills. So, provided that these three hypotheses become true, what questions should we be asking to drive even further? Data and analytics aren't terribly useful if no one's going to use them and make change. However, data and analytics is useful when the right questions are being asked. So what are those questions? Let's go through this a little bit. My intent isn't to go through every bullet in great detail. Rather, this can serve as a good reference. But if we stick with the hypothesis customers are unable to pay bills on time, what are some of the follow-on questions that need to be addressed in order to prepare for this? Well, you would see, which customers are impacted by COVID. How should we custom tailor payment plans? What should we segment? Should we segment our customers or treat them separately? When should we reach out to customers? Which channels should we use? What are all the outbound strategies that need to be put in place? Now, data and analytics holds the answers to all of this, provided that we can get our hands on the data. Now let's go to the second one. The second hypothesis is that average bill amounts will increase over the next several months. Well, certainly if that's the case, we want to start understanding what are the customer characteristics of high energy use or of low energy use. Should we start reaching out to them right now? Should we start targeting those energy efficiency programs? Should we begin leveraging that AMI data? Should we begin putting that to use in ways that we haven't done before? Let's go to the third area. The third area revolved around call volumes. and the likelihood that they will increase over the next several months. Again, if that's true, we need to get in front of this curve. Why are those customers calling? Who are they? What kind of channels do they want? Are customers satisfied? Are they satisfied with the utility? Are they satisfied with the contact center experience? Ultimately, how do we reduce these calls? How do we contain calls in the self-service channels? Now, it's interesting. You might be thinking, hey, a lot of this, we've talked about this for decades, but right now it's going to be unbelievably important as this is going to be coming at the utilities, really like a freight train. And before, we've always compared how we do against other utilities. In this case, that's not going to be right. We're going to have to compare how each utility does against other industries, because every industry is going to be faced with the same situation and the same set of questions. So, how do we prepare for this? Let's move on to the next slide. Well, in order to prepare for data and analytics for COVID-19, you need to know what to prepare for. So let's talk about just the timeline and maybe some of the phases that we're about to see. At first, there's kind of this shock and disbelief. And, we're seeing that in the March, April, May timeframe. Then, as we move into summer, it'll begin to be the new normal. And afterwards, we'll probably get into ongoing operations as we move into the winter and then, ultimately into the spring of 2021. So let's talk about how customers, employees, what's their life cycle like across each of these phases. So let's start with customer. Customer, and we're starting to see this right now. We're starting to work from home. The residential utility usage is up. And we'll probably start to see that corporate and industrial usage will go down as people are working from home. From 2 to 6 months, we're going to start to see a little bit of things that we've discussed earlier. There's going to continue to be reduction in salary, loss of job. People are going to be unable to pay bills and unable to move out. And in the summer months, we're going to get into all the summer types of activities that utilities generally face, such as providing air conditioning. But over time, things will get back to normal. People will get back on their feet. They're going to start preparing for the holidays. They're going to start preparing for the cold months. They'll probably have new jobs. A lot of them will have new jobs. And they'll start to be able to begin to pay their utility bill. So let's kind of talk about employees and kind of how their life cycle is going to move through this. Certainly similar to customers, they're working from home and they're dealing with kids at home and they're setting up all these work at home technologies. It's what we're doing right now. And they're going to start seeing a big spike in calls for high energy usage. They'll probably see that spike asking for payment arrangements. There's also going to be the issue of theft and the issue of changing regulations. And I suspect that employees over the course of 6-8 months of getting things to normal in their own homes are going to start wondering, do I have to go back to the office? I'm managing everything from home just fine. So I think those will be some of the major themes that take place over the next 6 months, next year. Let's talk about how data and analytics needs to prepare for that. So data and analytics right now, there's a couple very tactical things that need to happen. The first is getting our arms around what data is available, both internal and external. Secondly, it's identifying the right people in the organization that can help with business intelligence and advanced analytics. Next, it's prioritizing all the questions we discussed on the previous page to make actionable change, keeping in mind that it's not going to be acceptable to keep up with the other utilities. We have to keep up with the other industries who are also in the same situation. And then also a good time right now is to start developing those outbound strategies, getting the marketing team, getting all the messaging, and getting all the right channels in place. As that starts to take place, a couple things will happen. One is we'll have to develop a bunch of predictive models in order to identify what's going to happen to the customers. And then we got to go speak with them. So we got to implement those outbound strategies and get them in place over the next 2 to 6 months. And then finally, ongoing operations, things will smooth out, but it'll be important at that point to strengthen those models. Those predictive models don't stay active forever. We have to find the predictors. We have to begin to refresh and make sure that those models are always up to date. At the same time, we're going to determine what's working, what's not working. Always work in a champion challenger mode. Some things will work, some things won't work. We've got to change the messaging to some customers. We've got to change our models to become more accurate. And then, ultimately monitor success. It's going to be important during these times to truly monitor success and understand what the finish line looks like so that we can continue to move on into 2021 and 2022. So with that said, let's move on to the next slide, and I'll try to address some questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Bill. Our numbers and our email addresses are on this page. Look forward to hearing from you and look forward to speaking with you again.